Find out what the digital nomad lifestyle is like in Mexico from Todd and Allison Nevins as they move their businesses from city to city in this video interview with Expats in Mexico. When you lived in Dallas, had you been traveling back and forth to Mexico much at that time?
Yeah, vacation time, every chance we could get. We would go to a different town in Mexico too, and we said we were just vacationing, but really we were checking out different places to see what would fit.
What places did you go to?
Let's see, everyone starts with Playa del Carmen, scratch that off the list quickly, and then we tried Mazatlan, then we tried Manzanillo, and a lot of people that we ran into specifically in those two towns said, why not Merida? Simply because you guys are in Texas and that's such an easy shot, and it's really, really hot there, but you're used to really, really hot from Texas. So we're like, okay, well, we'll just vacation there and see what we think.
So yeah, we were, some of our criteria back in '09 was allow me to continue to work, but then we also needed it to be accessible via plane flights, direct flights to the United States. Yeah. And so back then those cities didn't have them. I'm not sure if they do now, but Merida kept coming up, both on our online research and with conversations with other expats around Mexico. We always had the dream of living on the beach, and Merida is 30 minutes from the beach. So that really was kind of in our mind when we were looking at it online, that ruled it out. But it just kept coming up soon enough, or frequently enough, where like, we've got to go and either fall in love with it or knock it off the list, but one or the other, we got to try it out. And so we flew in April of 2010 for a week. And by the end of that, we had decided this is it.
Infrastructure had to be a very important part of your consideration because of your online business.
Yeah. Yes. And it's a city of it was around 1 million people back then. Now it's probably 1.3 or 4. It's growing like crazy. There's an international airport that flies directly to, with flights directly to Houston and Miami. And then it's just a 3-hour drive over to Cancun if you need to get on a flight to go anywhere in the world. And it made sense. And when we got there, it was obvious that it was on the cusp of a huge growth spurt. We were kind of early on in regards to the expats that were our age, that were still working and still had to work. We still aren't retired. You know, retirement is kind of not in our DNA, really. And so we went there, and it was a really vibrant city, and the expat community was on the upswing. And it still is, but it was just really, really happy.
Did you buy a house when you first moved there?
We did actually through our mutual friend, Mitch. He, has the Mexico International, and we had rented a house from them while looking for a house to either buy outright or a ruin to fix up. And what we ended up finding was it was actually ugly as sin then, but we turned it into a really gorgeous house.
What part of the city was it?
Right in Centro. If you know anything about
if you're to get really specific, at the very end of Paseo de Montejo and the park of Merida, which is on the eastern side of Centro, it's basically right in between those two areas. So it was 3 blocks, and you're on Paseo de Montejo, which is the grand boulevard of Merida. It was a great project. We hired the right architecture team, in a husband and wife team, Victor and Ingrid. Victor Carrillo and Ingrid Payon out of Merida, and they really made the process. It was the very first house we have ever built or remodeled or anything, and the process was incredible. I was sad when it was over because our project was over.
Oh.
There was a beautiful 2-story, 3-bedroom, 2-bath garage, swimming pool, terraces all over.
Sounds wonderful.
It was beautiful and a great location.
How long did you live there?
3.5 years.
3.5 years.
Yeah, so it took 6 months from the beginning of construction to when we moved in. And it's funny because I was the one that was my project. So I'd look at 500 toilets and I'd come back and say, okay, Todd, you can choose one of these 3 toilets. And he'd be like, I like that one the best.
This is a great process. This is so easy.
Yeah, it's so simple. But
how much did you pay for the house when you bought it?
We bought it. It was a semi-ruin, unlivable 79. Obviously, the dollar against the peso was very different back then, but around 79,000 US, and then we put about another 130 to 140. So we were all in at 2 to 210.
Manageable size house.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, well, after you sold that house, where did you go?
So we went back. So one of the companies that I was a part of, the job board, I left that company to focus on my Google AdWords agency. The Google AdWords agency had much more of an upside than a job board that was getting hit by some of the other larger
LinkedIn
and Indeed and the VC funded companies were beating it down pretty well. So I jumped out of that company and wanted to dive headfirst into my Google Ads business, but to do that realistically, to really get it on adrenaline and steroids, we needed to get back into an environment where I could do that. And every single day I'm meeting with clients and potential clients and all of that stuff. And doing that from Merida, it would have taken me much longer to do that, to get where I'm in the 2 years we were in Austin. We worked every single day preparing ourselves to then launch back out into Mexico. And so I threw myself headfirst into starting a podcast that cross-promoted myself and my brand and click placement. And then Allison started her business as well. And we skipped over an important aspect of our time in Merida, and that is Allison starting a retail business in Merida that is now the reason why we're back here and moving around Mexico. So,
well, tell us about that business.
Okay, so part of the process of getting the house together was I realized I can't find any of the cool furniture or decor for this house anywhere in Merida, and started asking around, where can I find this stuff? And they're like, oh, Central Mexico. And I'm like, well, how come there aren't any stores that sell this stuff here? And it's like, ding, light bulb. So an American girlfriend of mine was like, I've always thought about opening up a store here. I don't know, like I can't do everything by myself. I need help. And we realized that we had a lot of good partnership qualities together. So we ended up creating Ella Studio, home decor and fun stuff from Central Mexico. And so in an effort to simply decorate and furnish my house, I ended up accidentally starting this whole business with a girlfriend.
Wow.
And we started, it was a small little store. And then a big space opened up on Paseo Monteo, which is, kind of like the main drag, if you will, of Merida. And we're like, okay, well, we can go big or we can go home or we can stay small and call this like a little hobby, or we can create like a real business. And we're like, we don't know what we're doing. We're nervous as hell, but screw it. Let's roll the dice. And now it's this very big, very successful store that's right there, in the main strip. I really enjoyed going to Central Mexico and buying things and selling it. So maybe what I do is I buy more of the best stuff from my favorite artists, and I import them into the States and sell online. So that was the beginning of Tex-Mex Fun Stuff.
And what year was that?
2016. I think I filed papers with the state of Texas in July of 2016.
What enabled you then to move back to Merida, to the place that you really liked?
Well, he got his Google Ads business to the point where we could move anywhere in the world we wanted to.
Yeah, the main thing is that we got I built my business back up, but I built it in a way that wasn't crucial for me to live not only in Austin, but even in the United States. My clients are located all over the country and even some up in Canada. So the days of like face-to-face meeting for coffee, this is an online business. It's an online tech business. So therein lies kind of the assumption of like, this is all online. We can do Skype, we can do Uber conference, email, all the tools. But the fact of us meeting, unless we really need to meet in person, I can, of course, fly to wherever they are and meet them. But for the most part,
that never happens.
No, I built it up to where we moved out of Austin and we built the infrastructure, got everything in place to where, we're still we're based out of Austin on paper. Like we've got our bank accounts, our corporate headquarters, like where we live on paper and all that is Austin. And we're going to be back there in a month anyway, just for a few weeks. But we set our base in Austin, but it enabled us to just pack up the car with our English Bulldog and all of the stuff that we own in our SUV and drive south in March of 2018 back across into Mexico.
And did you, when you went to Merida, rent this time?
We did not go to Merida this time. In 18, we came back in and we purposely decided that we didn't want to settle somewhere. And that still is our goal. We chose different cities in 18 and currently to live in anywhere from the shortest stint is a month up to 4 months per city. So we hit, to rattle them off quickly, the first cities were San Miguel de Allende, Guanajuato, Mexico City, Puebla, and then we did go to Merida for the holidays because that is where
For the winter.
Yeah, that's our community, that's our core community and our home base. But then we left in January to come back to Puebla, Guadalajara, Puerto Vallarta, and today in Querétaro.
So you are true digital nomads.
For sure.
Yeah, I guess that's what you would call us at this point. Yeah.
So Todd, your business, what exactly do you do for your clients?
Okay, so I provide them Google Ads marketing. So if you are a dentist in Dallas, Texas, and you are in Plano, Texas, let's say, and you serve a 10-mile radius around your clinic, you want to make sure that anybody that's doing a search for cavity fillings and teeth whitening and broke a crown, getting a crown repaired, they want to come up in the first 4 spots on a computer or the first 2 spots on a mobile device, and those are the pay-per-click ads.
You have an SEM business.
Different. Yeah, SEM at the top and the bottom, and then SEO, search engine optimization, is the middle, the 1 through 10 organic listings. I do not do that. I do the ads at the top and the bottom.
But your business continues.
Yeah, so whereas I was technically importing artisanias from all over central Mexico, now that I'm in Mexico, I'm technically exporting them. And so part of this hopping around to these different places is so that I can do shopping. So I can find, okay, what is something that people are looking for on Amazon, let's just say, and online. Is it breakable? Because if it is, I'm not touching it. I already learned my lesson. What is something that's easy to ship that people want, whether it's a seasonal item or it's just something that people want all the time, that makes sense, that I know I can get an artist to make, 100 of this exact thing or 300 of this exact thing and ship. So there are a lot of beautiful items here, but it takes a lot of drilling down to find out, okay, who can actually scale their art so that it works for my business, so that it makes sense to buy a bunch and pay for it to get across a border and into, an Amazon FBA facility.
Do you actually do the buying and then take ownership and warehouse it and then ship it?
I never warehouse it. I've actually got the artists that I have trained that they ship it to a guy that I have in Laredo who helps me cross the border, and then he does all of the packaging and labeling for me, and then gets them into the Amazon FBA facilities. A year ago, I was like, oh, why don't I just start sending things to Europe too? Okay, sure. Why don't I just sell in, England and France and Spain and Germany? Because, I thought I was so smart. So now I've got a company in Puebla, which is why we keep coming back to Puebla, who is basically doing kind of the same thing that my border buddy in Laredo does. They're helping me get everything, stuff put together and then shipped to Amazon in London, where they fulfill all over Europe for me, basically.
What is your what's your website?
It's TexMexFunStuff.com. So at first I was selling stuff from Texas and Mexico, and then I realized the Texas stuff wasn't selling and the Mexican stuff was selling like crazy. It's all done through Amazon because that is how I don't have to physically be there doing anything.
So it's Amazon Shops,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I still have my site and I do all my social marketing and I drive people from, Facebook and Instagram to my site. Mm-hmm. And when they're like, I do want to click on that piñata or that Papel Picado banner or whatever, they click on it and it takes them to my storefront on Amazon. So they can.
Are you both incorporated in Texas then?
Yes.
Yes.
So is it like a S corp or a LLC or?
We have an LLC. It's officially we have one LLC and then we have 2 DBAs. Tex-Mex stuff, and then my business is.
Oh, that's smart. And so everything is run out of your bank in Texas here. support people there. And so after living in this wonderful house in Merida for 3 or 4 years, you're basically what are you using? Airbnb or?
You know what? And Airbnb has been a really glorious thing for us because it does allow us to just, hop from here to there, and we don't have to have stuff. I mean, when we moved back to Austin, we bought enough stuff to fill an apartment and then immediately sold most of it so that we could take everything in our car, including our dog. So when we show up to an Airbnb, we know there's going to be a coffee maker and there's going to be linens on the sheets and towels that we're not going to have to bring ourselves. It's already going to be set up with electricity and internet and usually some kind of a TV scenario, So no matter where we go, we're going to be set up.
And all of the cities have co-working spaces as well. And luckily the co-working trend in Mexico is it's not a trend. It is happening. There are co-working spaces in every city we go to.
How much does it cost? How much does it cost for the space?
Yeah, that ranges from about in U.S. dollars anywhere from $75 a month to $125 a month, roughly.
Oh, it's very inexpensive.
This in Querétaro is just over $100 for the month. The Wi-Fi speed is 130 megabytes up and down. It's just screaming fast. We're in a conference room here. There are multiple places to take calls and get free coffee and walk outside and grab a salad because we're right in the major part of the city. It's easy.
So what people don't understand is that in most of the major Mexican cities, they have better internet connection than they do in most other places in the States.
Of course.
100%. 100%. Like, he is getting better, internet connection and better perks and stuff for, like he said, like $125 a month. And he was spending $350 in Austin.
The place that you're staying in now in Querétaro, what's it like?
And this is like a 3-story townhouse that's got like our own parking space. And it's got 24-hour, they call it vigilante, but it's like a security guard. And we were like, this is so sexy, and we're paying so much less than we have in so many other places.
So this one we're paying around $1,700
It's like $1,700 US.
And we rented it for 1 full month. So it's relatively short term, but not long term, which is somewhere in the middle, $1,700 US. It's 5 minutes walking to the heart of Centro. We're just officially outside on the northeast side of Centro, but it's a 5-minute walk, and it's a little bit further from a co-working space than normal. I do have to take an Uber, and it's maybe an 11-minute Uber ride to get to the co-working space.
If you were going to rent that on an annual basis, it'd probably drop to $1,400 or $1,500.
Probably safe.
Yeah, for sure.
This is a burgeoning town. It's a city of about 1 million people, and we were told before we got here that it is growing like crazy. We were already over in Guadalajara, which is around 6 million. So that's a big city, and we come here, and it's growing like mad, and we've been told that it's because of the people coming from Mexico City that are tired of the congestion and the smog and the pollution and all that. And it's only 3 hours down the road, and they get to Querétaro, and this town has everything you want, from electronics to restaurants to everything. And so a lot of people are moving here.
I hesitate to ask where you're going next, but you need to.
We already know.
We got it planned out for next year.
Because with the bulldog, and we're kind of. We love like the digital nomad life, but we still plan a lot. So we are actually planned all the way through almost a year. So we go from here to Texas for a couple of weeks to get reset on. We're going to start our temporary resident visas, which we're on tourist visas now, and a wedding, and then we come back and do Mexico City, Puebla, Oaxaca, Merida, all the way over to then Puebla and then Puerto Vallarta. And then we don't have anywhere after Puerto Vallarta, and that is through early June of next year.
Well, listen, you guys, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me today. Sounds like you've got a great life.
Thank you.
We're enjoying it.
We're pretty
it's
grateful.
Fun. Yeah.